so that we can review all the knowledge that will be given to us this evening. So we want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for logging on. And I know this is going to be a very fruitful and positive experience. So I'm going to let Donald introduce himself. He is a well-known speaker when it comes to fatherhood, manhood, and he has a lot to give us. So much so that when I talked with him, I said, you know, Brother Donald, you can't do this in just one evening. And he was gracious enough to say, all right, we'll break it down into 2 evenings. So this evening, it'll be part 1, and next week we'll have part 2. So Donald, please introduce yourself formally to the group. Thank you.
How you doing, my brothers? Can everybody hear me well? Wonderful, yeah. Wonderful. So thank you for that, Mike. Uncle Mike, we are always glad to be here. And Derek, I will call you back, I promise. I know, you know, Derek calls me, leaves me messages, and then I say, I'm gonna get to you, my brother, I'm gonna get to you. But I am, first and foremost, I am a father, a husband of 20 years. So was my brother coming in from Houston. Caleb, welcome to the family of fatherhood. I have 6 children, because you can't work all the time. And my oldest is 43 and my youngest is 10. So I may not have a beard, but it's still working. All right, that's what we're gonna say about that. Yeah, in fact, I went and got snipped last year because we had a pregnancy scare, and I'm too old to be having kids right now. I just, we're not gonna do that. So if anybody want to talk about vasectomy, I can talk to you about that. It still works after the vasectomy. You ain't gonna work. That's what brothers think, you ain't gonna work. It still work. I was testing mine days out. Like I was like, okay, we can go and try this again. So that's it. I am going to ask if you don't have background noise to take your mics off mute. I know we do that as a practice, but I want to have a discussion tonight. A little bit about my background. Besides being a husband and a father, I am also, I am a parenting educator. First and foremost, my specialization is fathers, and I've worked close to 15, 20 years working with fathers as a practitioner. And that's a little different than what most people in fatherhood movement do. Most people in fatherhood movement talk about bringing fathers together and helping fathers work through some strategies of that. I'm actually a fatherhood practitioner, which means I coach fathers on best practices on being a father. And because that comes out of parenting, as a parenting educator, working with best practices on parenting. I'm also a consultant, organizational management consultant, and a personal coach, life coach for Black men in business through my organization that I run, where we really help people go to the next level in their business, and specifically targeting Black men in business. I don't really work with other people outside of our group because I think we have a unique set of challenges as Black men, most of which I believe are just psychological. That means in the head, we think we can't, but we can. And if we make some shifts in our thinking, we can go to another level. So I do that all the way through. So I want to kind of talk tonight about the making the most of manhood. We are in a very anti-male environment. Many of us have experienced that. Some of us don't know whether to open the door or slam a door in a sister's face, right? Because you open the door, they may say something to you. You don't open the door, they say something to you. Who do I pay for the meal, or should her pay for the meal herself? What am I supposed to be doing in this era? And that becomes really problematic, particularly when we talk about our role as fathers and how do we raise our sons and get our sons to understand this. And at the same time that we have this era where women are really taking their place in their role, and I'm not really speaking down on that. I think that women can be elevated without emasculating men, without pulling us down. And that just has not happened in large quantities. But at the same time, we also have the LGBTQ movement that's coming up in its place. And so you put the two of them together at the same time. So where do heterosexual fathers or men come into the play? Where we've been? And I recognize that historically, there's been a place for that, but that's really been a white male position, not a Black male position. And the dynamics with our families are not the same, the dynamics that white folk have. And this is not anything pejorative about them, but we do have a unique set of circumstances that we face as Black men and fathers that white men and fathers don't have to face. Will receive a monetary and so I want to have that kind of conversation about it, particularly for those of us. I noticed there's several of us who shave our heads, probably because we've reached a certain milestone in life, and either we don't want the grays to show, or the grays wouldn't cover the whole head in its totality, and we just wanted to still look good. So we can share some knowledge and kind of help brothers navigate through some stuff, some of these young brothers that are just getting in there. I know Caleb is one. We might have some other brothers in the room, but I want to talk about how we can make the most of manhood. And one of the problems we have in this country is that we keep redefining manhood. Now, the reality is we don't get to redefine manhood. It's usually redefined by sociologists who are highly feminized. And they're not looking at a perspective from a family perspective. The family has come under attack in a great way, because if you attack the fathers, you attack the family. And most sociologists don't see it that way. Most activists don't see it that way, right? If the moment you say, "I am woman, hear me roar," and that you're a toxic male, you've just attacked the family. Because regardless of people's sexuality, and I am an affirming individual, I'm not anti-gay in any way, shape, or form. I support individuals who have varying sexualities, and I also, in that statement, I support heterosexual males, right? Because that's just real. You can't, if you're doing this and you're not doing this, you miss something along the line. Because quite frankly, we got the sperm. If you don't get our sperm, you ain't making no babies, right? So all the women can get together if they want to, and they can do what they want to do, but you still need us because we got the sperm. and that is the power that we have. I want you to hold on to that. I may say some things tonight that you may not have heard before. I want you to hold on to them, because we don't get a lot of encouragement. Y'all know that we've come used to not being encouraged. We've come used to kind of winging it on our own. And that's why these forums are so important, when we can get together and talk. And it's not a woman hating, female bashing session, an anti-gay session, none of that kind of stuff. It's really affirming men. And when I tell white associates who want to be a part of Black movements, is we get to have our own stuff by ourselves, for ourselves. And I say the same thing to anyone who feels that there's a problem with Black fathers getting together. We get to have our stuff for ourselves, by ourselves, because we don't need the outsiders telling us what we know we need to work on and who we need to be. So I want to just first start out by defining a man. When we think about what a man is, what are some words that come to mind? Just open up and jump in there and just throw some words, or pop them in the chat, however you want to handle that. What is a man?
A provider.
Okay, provider.
Protector.
Okay. Y'all gonna do the 5 Ps on me? Go ahead, somebody do the 5. Let's do the 5 Ps. Go ahead, do the 5 Ps and get them out the way. Go ahead. Provider, protector, what's the other one?
Pursuer.
Pursuer. Oh, okay.
What's the other P? What's the other?
I have no idea.
All right, who said provider, protector? Just throw your hand up if you said it. Okay, brother Phil, brother, is it Lionel?
Lionel,
okay.
yeah.
Lionel, okay. All right, so the traditional 5 Ps, and actually we use the 5 Ps typically to talk about fathers, not necessarily men. There are some categorical differences between a man and a father. So where's Caleb? What work on you? You've been 19 weeks or 19 months? How long you been a father, bro?
19 months.
19 months. So you made that transition from manhood to fatherhood, right? So there is a particular model that talks about the different characteristics between boys, men, husbands, and fathers. And sometimes the husband category is dropped out of the model, but it really talks about the characteristics, the individual characteristics that exist between these three types of males. That boys are dependent, men are independent, but fathers, by virtue of who we are, have to be dependable because we have dependents who depend on us, right? Boys are lascivious. Lascivious is an old English word, means they lack sexual self-control, right? That's just it. You got a teenage boy in your house, he taking a shower, if he in that bathroom more than 15 minutes, you know he got some lotion in there because he lacks sexual self-control, right? That's just how it is. I got 5 sons, so I just gave them all, they all had their own rooms. They had a pail in their room, tissue, and lotion. And I said, don't let me smell it. You got a plastic bag. When you finish, wrap it up, whatever. We're not even gonna play the game like people are handling a business, right? So go handle your business and then we can talk, but wash your hands before you touch me. Okay, that's how we did it, right? I just keeping it real, right? I mean, listen, my oldest son went on a date one time. He came home. I said, how was the date? He said it was good, but I ran out of lotion. Dad, can I use yours? Took the lotion off my dresser. I said, bring it back. You know, 4 teenage boys in the house at one time. I was a single dad. So, you just gotta have those things, right? So boys are lasciviousness. They don't have self-control, but men have self-control.
They should.
Right? Men have self-control. So what happens is when you don't have one of these characteristics, it calls your manhood into question. So an adult male who lacks sexual self-control, then since that's a characteristic of a man, then it's not saying you're not a man, but we're starting to question your maturity levels, your ability to be the man that you're supposed to be. Yeah, does that make sense? Right? So we have these categories, but then we say that boys are lascivious, men have self-control, but fathers are controlling because fathers have to control the environment. We get to control the atmosphere. Everybody can be upset, and then you come in and you settle and say, it's gonna be all right. This morning, my daughter didn't want to get out of bed. My wife said 3 times, get up, get up, get up. I walked in the room, I said, get up. We're not having this conversation. She said, I don't understand why I have to get up. I said, well, at this point, because I said you need to get up. So now you just need to follow what I tell you to do. And we're not gonna have an argument about it. Now, I make it a business not to scream in my house. I don't scream. I say it, I expect it to be followed through. I walk softly because I found that I have more authority when I walk softly. My wife screams her brains out. That's her nature. It ain't my nature. I'm gonna say it once and then I'm gonna have a consequence for not following through because I need to control the atmosphere. And not like, yo, Iron Man, you're gonna do what I say. But really, we need to keep order in the house, right? Somebody's gotta say, and at some point, when my son thought he was grown and smelled himself and made a statement to my wife, I had to remind him, that's my wife. She's your mother, but that's my wife. Speak to her like that again, and you will not be happy with the income, right? Control it. When my wife found out that her aunt was dying, and it was my hug that held her and controlled the atmosphere that brought things to calm. Right? When my son didn't make it on the team that he was trying to get onto, I had to control the atmosphere and calm his heart and let him know that he still will be great, that his greatness is not dissipated by the fact that he didn't make that team, that his greatness is going to shine in other areas. So we are controlling. So when we start talking about some of the characteristics of a man, that's what I say. So when I say, what is a man? I didn't want to really get into the 5 Ps because the 5 Ps we usually attribute to fathers. And for those who don't know what the 5 Ps are, it's protector, it's provider, it's a promoter. Father's supposed to promote, push forward, right? Encourage, or y'all should come see my son's artwork because he's a great artist. Or my daughter is going to be skating in this event. Y'all need to come see that. Or just promote them to them and tell them about their greatness and let them know how awesome they are when they can't see it. You know, the reason, one of those other characteristics, we say boys are blind. They can't see. They walk right into all kinds of problems, right? Men can see, but fathers are visionaries. And the visionary has foresight, hindsight, which gives us insight. And so as we go through this, we start figuring out those things because we have to be those things, right? So when we talk about promoting, how do we push our families forward? How do we set an idea in the house and promote that and say, hey, we're going to do this by next year. We're going to make these goals, right? And then the last two, they really have a kind of a religious connotation, but the definitions are still applicable. The first one is priest. And a priest by definition is someone who intercedes on someone's behalf, right? So in both Judaism and in Christianity, the priest is the one that goes between the people and God, right? Protestantism doesn't have priests, they just have ministers, but the priest is the intercession, right? And so, so the role of the father is to intercede on behalf of the family or the children. And then the last one is the prophet. And the prophet is the one who speaks a word that's going to come to pass. Understanding how important our words are and what we speak over our families, when we tell our children that fathers never say to their kids, you stupid, or you acting stupid. Because if you tell a kid they acting stupid, what do they hear you say?
I'm stupid.
You're stupid. They didn't hear you acting. They just hear you're stupid. So don't say, why you keep acting stupid? Right? So what I encourage fathers to always do is tell them who they are, right? I had a boy in my office today, and because I'm a father, I only know how to be a father. So whenever there's a child in my presence, I'm going to be a father. That's just how I am. So I had a 15-year-old in my office today who just keep getting kicked out of school. He's got he's on probation. He did some stuff, just keep trouble after trouble after trouble. And the whole time, everyone's talking to him and they're like, you keep doing this, you keep doing this, you keep doing this. And I just said, I need all of y'all to leave so I can talk to him. And my whole conversation, Tim, was about, so how do we get the greatness that's in you out of you? Because I know you're great. I know you're better than this. Well, your behavior is not who you are. Because I'm going to just prophetically speak into his future. That's my power as a father. So we want to leave the 5 P's in their place because that's where they are. I want to talk about manhood first, and I'll tell you why. When we define the word father, a father is a man who has reproduced an offspring. Man first. And some people get upset with me and they say, well, because, I have to be mother and father. How many of you heard people say that? Women say, I got to be mother and father. It is impossible for anyone to be a mother and a father. And when we talk about the attributes of a father, the first qualifier we talk about the attributes of is you got to have a penis. That's just the first qualification, right? You got to have one. You ain't got one, you can't be a father. Okay. Did anybody disagree with me on that one? I need y'all to turn the mic so I feel like I'm just talking to a vacuum. Huh?
Can you hear me?
Okay, for it.
My name is James Larison. I'm one of Uncle Mike's mentees. So I'm coming from a different perspective. Like I'm genderqueer, although I'm male. I'm a person that feel like they have both feminine and masculine energy. I feel like a person can be a mother and father at the same time if they believe or they feel that they're both genders, in my opinion. But that's just what I wanted to add to the conversation.
Okay, so I would ask you to think about this. Really is understanding and listen to the whole conversation, because when you start talking about the roles of the individuals and what a father does and what a mother does, you can't be both. You have to take a role. There are some things that are specific, right? And so I would say this: your paternity has little to nothing to do with your sexuality.
But my thing is not because of sexuality. Genderqueer is my gender expression.
Right. Okay. But and I hear you when you say my thing is, that is your perspective.
Yeah.
When we talk about the totality of what makes us happen and who we are. No woman can ever be a father, because the requirement of a father, right. The word father comes from the Greek word pater. it's the PATR. It means the creator and sustainer of life, right? So if the father is the creator and sustainer of life, then you have to first be able to create a life. Women cannot create lives. They're born with their eggs. The eggs are with them until the day they die. And so where the life comes into the egg is from the sperm. The sperm delivers the egg. That's just a biological fact, right? So, and a man could create sperm until the day he dies. My daddy was 65 years old when he created me. And I'm not the youngest, okay? Because now my mama was in her 30s because my mama didn't know he was that old, but that's a different conversation. We'll talk about that later. But the point is that he could procreate until he died. And now with Viagra, a lot of brothers are getting some help in doing that. They may not eat as well as they should be eating and being healthy like the good councilman, right? But because they're eating stuff that don't help them. I'm vegetarian, so you know I got to keep the blood flowing. We'll just talk about that from another story. Right? I'm talking to a bunch of brothers, so I'm gonna say I got to keep the blood flowing because if the blood stops flowing, you won't have a hard time. Let's just say that way. Okay, everybody got that? All right, right. Yeah, if no blood flow, no go. So we got to keep the blood flowing, right? And we learned that there's certain things we eat that impede the blood flow. So we need to check ourselves on that kind of stuff. Right, my brother Barry, brother Councilman, am I right on that? Okay, here we go. All right, I know. So, but the point is that sperm production only happens in the male. So even if someone decides who's a male to express themselves as a female, that's your choice of expression, but your biology is different. The biology talks about what you are capable of doing. Now, there are individuals who decide to go and have like bottom surgery, and that's their prerogative. Once they've done that, they've removed that ability to do it. But that ability to do it was still there until they had the removal of the physiological mechanisms in the body that produce it.
Ouch. I mean,
okay. Does that make sense to you, my brother?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's not an affront again. It's just saying, listen, you got sperm. And we all know or know of individuals. Caitlyn Jenner has children that was produced. She produced before she became Caitlyn Jenner because her biology, her physiology gave her the ability to do that. Now, I'm not aware of whether she's had bottom surgery or not, but if she has not, she still has the equipment to make children. For those of you who don't know what bottom surgery is within the transgender community who decide when a transgender female, which is a woman who was assigned male gender at birth, and then over a course of time made the decision that my expression of a female, I want also to be expressed in my physiology. And Brother Mike, I don't want to be offensive, so tell me if I'm getting this wrong. But so that individual makes the decision to have surgery and have the male part of their anatomy removed. So that's called bottom surgery. That means that their penis and testes are removed and that what is left is then reshaped surgically to look like a vagina. My statement and my position is that until bottom surgery happens, that individual, whether they identify as male or female, is viable as a physiological male and can still produce children because they're producing sperm. So if you are a sperm producer, right, you have the equipment for sperm, penis, testes, then that's the male part. And I understand that in our modern world, we're redefining that and say, well, you can choose who you are. But physiologically, that choice is not made. Now, I know there are individuals where there are some questions and that's a very small percentage of the population that their sexuological identity is marred, and parents and doctors have to make some of the toughest decisions in the world to decide what gender to assign to that individual. But for the overwhelming majority of individuals, if you're born with male gonads, you are a male, and if you're born with female gonads, you're a female. And we're talking about those individuals coming up to a place where they have to not just be male and female, but go through the stages of boyhood, manhood, and then to where we are today, fatherhood. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. I don't want to lose that, because that's important for us to understand that. Okay. So the position, and again, I can affirm heterosexual male fatherhood and not debase the LGBTQ plus community. Brother Mike, I'm sorry. What's your name, bro? Because your name's not on the screen.
James.
James. And your is it okay to say bro?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. All right. I want to be sensitive to people's positions.
You good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. But does that make sense that I can do the two?
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. Just because I like vanilla ice cream don't mean I hate chocolate ice cream. I just want to say I like vanilla ice cream. You know, you would take a female. My wife. I got married. My cousin saw a picture of her. He said, "Oh, you like a sister?" I said, "What's a sister?" He said, "Yo, she dark skinned, bro." I said, "Yeah, yo, why?" He said, "I thought you would have got one of them light-skinned mommies or something like that, you know, when the meter girls." And I was like, "Yo, bro, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice." You know what I'm saying? That was my thinking, right? But that's how I am. But so I just put it out there like that. Hey, listen, people like who they like. My third son is gay. He's out, all that. I'm very supportive in his relationships and all that. But that's just it. That's who he is. He's no less my son than he is. And because he identifies as a gay man, he's no less than a man. I just don't expect to ever be a grandfather on his side, because he don't mess with women. But he still got sperm and a penis. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about what is a man, the question that I put out for everybody is, what are the things that we think about when we think about a man? And let's not go through the 5 Ps. What are some of the other characteristics that we think about when we think about a man?
I'll go, what about vulnerability?
Vulnerability. Okay, somebody else?
I'll say leader.
Leader. Okay.
Educator.
Educator.
Self-aware.
Self-aware.
Arbitrator.
Arbitrator.
Come
That's
on.
a big
Little
word.
move.
Can you tell us what that
Yeah.
means, please?
Counsel.
Wow.
It's the counsel.
Everybody questioned me. I mean, nobody questioned nobody else.
Arbitrators are like Airbnb. What's arbitrator, man? Come on, help us out.
No, I'm gonna mute again. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, and your picture too.
It's a.
Endoplasmic reticulum. No, courage.
Courage. I know what the endoplasmic reticulum is, because Mr. Evans, my 7th grade science teacher, taught me that. He's one of my first Black male teachers, and ever imposed in my brain the endoplasmic reticulum. That's how we used to talk. Somebody else, my brothers, come on.
Emotional intelligence.
Emotionally intelligent.
Role model.
You didn't ask him you didn't ask him why he said that. You know.
Who? Why he said emotionally intelligent?
I mean, an arbitrator basically is the person who settles a dispute. Usually men, they step up and they settle a dispute. I mean, as head of the house, you know, as the father, as the husband. I'm settling this, and after I settle this, we ain't gonna talk about it no more.
I thought the arbitrator was the person that did your taxes, so that's not right.
See, that's why we needed you to clear it up. That's why we needed. Mr. President, we need you to clear that up because some people think the arbitrator was doing their taxes, and some people thought that was like the real estate agent who handles your Airbnb. Okay.
I'm glad I said something.
I am too.
Well,
Thank you for putting that out there.
No problem, sir.
Anybody else before we move on?
Someone that builds character, that has character.
Character.
Did you get role model?
I have role model.
Okay.
How about financier? You know what a financier is?
Isn't that like a provider?
It's part of being a provider.
It's part of being a provider, but you're paying for stuff, right? People
Yeah.
always ask me, they say, how your family doing? I say, better
You-
than me. I'm at work and they spending my money.
You're the one basically ponying up the dough. So
That's it.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That you know, and a lot of times, even because remember, we're talking about man. We're not talking about fathers in particular.
right.
But a lot of men are paying for their sister to go to college, their mom helping their moms out with the rent, all kinds of stuff, right? That's not required in father, but men step
No.
to the stage and help
Right.
out, right? That's
Across
a
the
part of it.
across the board.
Across the board. That's exactly right. We're gonna help somebody. And I want to say that because I want to applaud each of you because each of you are found in those words and those characteristics. And in areas where we may be falling short, that may be the part that's disappointing us about ourselves. But the fact that you are aware that that's where you want to be is something that we want to acknowledge. Right? Often we will look at our shortcomings and not look at our strengths. And if you focus on your shortcomings, it will always put you down into a position where you look at your strength and say, well, this is what I do. This is what I do. That's why I stopped using but I started using and. I stopped using or and I use and. It's all possible. We can make it happen. Let's do this. I have the power to get it done. And really figuring that out because I have the brilliance to make that happen. I know somebody said, dang, he's really stuck on himself. No, I'm just going to affirm that. I'm just going to affirm it. I have the brilliance. I can figure this out. Because you know what? We do have the brilliance to figure it out. We are where we are today because we had the brilliance to figure out some stuff. And there's some brothers who didn't make it to where we made it. We figured out some stuff that others did not figure out, right? So that brilliance is there. So we are brilliant in that. When I talk about the unique situation that Black fathers have, that we are able to overcome challenges and obstacles that most individuals would never be able to deal with. My second master's is in organizational leadership. I have a master's of science in organizational leadership. And one of my professors was one of the first. The US government picked her to go to Japan in the early 1970s to help open up the Japanese market to American products. And this is why the State Department chose her. She was a Black woman. And they recognize, sociologists recognize that the best people to be in a position of an expat. Does anybody know what an expat is? Somebody put it out there? Anybody? An expat is an individual who works in a different country. Right? So if I went to work in Spain and I had to be there for 3 years for my company, I would be an expat. So sociologists know this. The best expats from the American culture are Black people, and particularly Black women. Can anybody tell me why they think that is?
I think it's because Black women, they tend to travel more than Black men because they're more likely to have passports than we do.
Actually, that's not the reason why. That's not why they make better expats. Because if that were the case, then white men would make better expats because they definitely travel more than white women and Black men. So
Unmute Paul.
Paul has his hand up.
Hey, Paul.
Unmute Paul.
Okay, I was gonna say more than likely is because historically in the United States, Black men have been perceived or portrayed as threats. So therefore, a lot of Black women as a whole, they've been relegated in American society to that nanny caregiver role. So
So why would that make them better fit to serve as an expat in another country? Because that's a different culture.
In a different culture, it might more than likely it's the perception from the different culture towards the Black woman.
Okay.
Or could it be that they're easier to work with?
So Donald, we have 3 hands up, so I want to respect that. So,
okay, all right.
So we James, Sean, and then Caleb.
Are we doing hands? Oh.
Yeah. They get first preference. They get first preference.
The president said, "I don't do hands. I just speak."
No. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been speaking out of turn.
No, you're not out of turn. It's just we give preference to the people that put their hands up.
I'm sorry. I disrespected my uncle, and I'm sorry, Uncle Mike. I apologize.
No disrespect. All right, let's go forward. James, Sean, and then Caleb.
So I would say because Black women like survive the most, because like specifically just like they experience. I mean, I don't know, but I feel like in my opinion, right? I'm not saying that as fact, but they have to experience, for example, racism and also sexism, and so they're more adaptable. They know how to, let's say, code switch better. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. You finished?
Yeah, no, you shut me up. Am I saying the wrong
No,
thing?
no. I'm just ready to go to the next person.
All right, cool.
Wrap it up. All right.
No, that's cool. That's what I'm saying.
These college students. Sean, and then Caleb.
Yeah, I'll be brief. James stole my thunder. I was gonna say the exact same thing. I think there is
Okay.
Black women, because they have to navigate the realities of race and ethnicity and gender. They wear multiple hats in different circumstances. I think because of the stereotype of Black women being too aggressive, they have to code switch. And because of all of the things that they've had to pick up throughout the ways in which they've been perceived in society, what I call it is the dance. I think Black women know how to dance. They can navigate multiple worlds when it comes to equity, when it comes to power, when it comes to race, when it comes to culture or sexual orientation. Black women in particular, but especially women of color and Black women in particular, have the ability, I think, to dance and navigate multiple worlds. And so as a consequence, when they step into another country where it's a patriarchal society, where men are oblivious to patriarchy in some respects, women can instinctively know it. Men may walk into a country and not know who to talk to, who to communicate with. Black women will instinctively know who are the women in the room who actually have more of the social power that the men would be oblivious to. And Black women, I think, have the X-ray vision to go and see those folks. So I'd say precisely what James just said. So yeah.
Thanks, Sean. Caleb, then Kendrick, and then we're back to our speaker.
Yeah, the brothers before me pretty much outlaid my thoughts, so I really don't have to go. If I could add just one thing of like, why not white men, or why not white women or Black men, is also along the same lines as perception. White men and white women are seen as racist overseas and untrustworthy. And Black men from, film and music, which is like dominant overseas, Black men are seen as like untrustworthy as well, and threatening. And so like I said, I don't have to go into more detail because everybody's pretty much said what I had to say.
Thanks, Caleb. Kendrick?
Could you reiterate the question?
Why? Well, actually, the question was, why are Black people, particularly Black women, serve as better expats than others from the American culture?
So part of I want to say my response is kind of hypothetical, but there's a literality in it. It applies directly to the United States. So when we started this, there was some reference to hierarchy and the significance. If you guys think about it, women get escalated to a lot of the positions that they do in this country, more specifically Black women, because there is no circumstance behind them that is going to give a whole lot of pushback to. So if you put a man, if you put a white woman in a position, or a white man, you put a white man in a position, he's going to have the support of his entire backing. Like whoever is behind him is going to support him and allow him to function in the way that he sees fit. If you think about it, the statement has gotten popular more recently about Black women being the least protected person on earth. If you take someone like that and put them outside of their whatever their protective construct may be, it makes them even more vulnerable and pliable and all of those other things. So it's kind of like you're putting a non-threatening person or individual, and that would start with Black women and subsequently include Black people as a whole. We don't have a base for all intents and purposes that allow us to go and make changes to things that are already in place. So it's the least threatening of all of those constructs. Because again, a white man's coming to change something because that's what white privilege tells them they can do, and so on and so forth for most white folks. But we're going to go along to get along because that is what the basis of this country is. You can tell yourself differently, but the reality is that there's very little that transpires in this country that we have say-so over. There may be some part of it that benefits us in some way, shape, or form, but ultimately it's a decision that someone else makes. And if we benefit from it, then so be it. But if not, that's what it's going to be.
So each of you touched on part of it, because the reality is this: we talk about the hierarchies in this country as white men, white women, black men, black women. When you put them outside of this country, what happens is that position actually will, when you flip it upside down, those people are better suited to actually live in that community, right? So Black people overall are, as Brother Hendra said, are accustomed to not being have things go our way. So, or understand some of the things that's going on and have, as some of the others had mentioned, the ability to code switch and to change and to fit in and to blend in and to sit back and to step back and all that. And so we can melt into the room if we need to, but we can also be spoken when we need to. And we have those abilities. White men are the worst expats historically because they can't deal with cultural changes. They need things to be like, well, why can't I get my Coca-Cola? I need my Starbucks. What's going on? Whereas we are highly adaptable as a people. And so the State Department in 1974, I believe, decided we need to find a Black female to send to Japan because she will be able to navigate the Japanese culture, be able to befriend the Japanese, understand them, and get them to hear our part. And so one of those individuals was one of my professors when I was doing my graduate work. And it really speaks to the power that we have. Code switching is something that we learn without even thinking about it. I'm trilingual. I'm a polyglot. I speak English, Spanish, and French. I grew up speaking English, Spanish, and French. And so in my house growing up, I could go from the kitchen through the living room to the back room, and there'd be a different language spoken in each room. And if somebody says something to me, I could just respond. I didn't think about it because I was raised that way. It just doesn't, my brain just does that. And for us to be able to code switch, we don't think about code switching. It's just how we are. We've learned that. Those of us who are going to go and change. Now, one of the struggles that we have is that we have now a generation that have been relegated to just the community, and they haven't learned this code switch. But there was a time in my generation, we all learned the code switch because we was always going to be in Big Mama's house. We're going to go somewhere else. And when you go over there, you have to speak a certain way and act a certain way. And when you come over here, and then we go back here with there. Because now we have so many people that's just relegated to one space, they don't have those skill sets. So we actually had to come up with a name, code switching. It's just how we used to be. But now we have to call it something. In fact, the word code switching is a linguistic term. It comes out of the linguistic field. And it's really about, and it's also a misnomer when we translate it over. To code switch literally means to, anybody hear about Spanglish? When you use English and Spanish words and blend together, that's technically code switching. That's what it is linguistically. When you talk about linguistic science, that's what code switching is. But we've moved it over to say, being able to switch in and out of a culture when we need to. And so we're able to do that. That's our greatness that we have. We can celebrate that ability to be able to do. That's why we want to teach our children to be able to blend and to move and to navigate. Because in this country, we are always Black and we're always reminded of our Blackness everywhere we go. That's not true everywhere in the world. And so the world doesn't always see us the way that things are seen in this country. In fact, I would be willing to say that when you leave this country, but there may be the exception of Canada, some parts of Canada, but when you leave this country, people see us very differently than what we are seen as in this country. When I lived in Europe, I was an American first. Black second, but I was an American first. That's what they saw first, right? When I was in Africa, is again another situation. It was just they saw me differently. And they didn't see me as Black because we all Black. So now they see me as something different, right? So when we go to different countries, we're not seen the same way we're in this country. So we get to switch our mind. I was in the Czech Republic doing some work, and the Ramanish, what people call the Gypsies, they're called Black people by the Czech. The Czech are very pale. They're like snow. They just light folk, real light, right? But the Ramanish are actually the descendants of enslaved Indians from India. So they look kind of like Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. They you know, they're kind of mestizo, right? So I was like, well, they call y'all Black, what they call me? Dad, you know what I'm saying? Right?
So Donald,
yes.
I don't want to interrupt you. Some of us are leaving at 8 o'clock. That's where we go to 8:30, but
right.
You might want to get back onto your agenda of making the most of manhood.
Got you. Okay. So let me just put this out there real quickly, because we got 2 minutes before you 8 o'clock, we got to go. So when we're talking about who we are and what we do, most of us have been defined by external sources outside of our family of origin, right? The natural progression is that our fathers would impart to us who we were. Our fathers would define us because they had the definition of who they were and would pass it down. And many of us were robbed of that experience because our fathers weren't there for whatever reason it was. And those who told us who we were lied to us. I boldly say they lied to us. They told us we were less than. They told us we were not enough. And so I want to tackle these 5 questions of the human heart, because when we talk about how to make the most of manhood, we need to understand the first question of the human heart, which is, who am I? Who am I? This is a question of identity, right? And many of us are still discovering who we are, right? We have to figure that out because no one helped us to see it. In fact, when they told us we were, some of us believed it for a while, and then we said, that ain't right. Somebody told me I was no good. And then you said, well, there's something good in me. Someone was told I was stupid. Then you realize you excelled in this area. Some of us were told that we would never be somebody, and we overcame that. So we have to figure that out. And I would suggest to us that as we explore that question, that we do that in a close circle of wisdom. That we take the graybeards. Y'all know who the graybeards are? The graybeards. If you're a graybeard, raise your hand. Brother Phil, put your hand down. You got a great beard, but it ain't a gray beard. It's not there yet, bro. It ain't there yet. That's a gray beard right there. Where my gray beards at? Come on, Prez. There you go. They're the gray beards. Now, Derek done cut his beard off, but he would be a gray beard too. There, you know, Uncle Mike is a gray beard. But there is the gray beards, because the gray beards can help shape and define us, right? When I see the James and Uncle Mike relationship, it's a wonderful thing, because the beauty that you have, James, is that if typically your father could be 15 to 20 years older than you and still trying to figure some stuff out, but Uncle Mike has exceeded that. So he's got more wisdom to impart into you. You see what I'm saying? I'm a much better father to my 10-year-old than I was to my 43-year-old. I'm just saying, I am. I know more now. I was ready to fight my 43-year-old when he was a teenager. My 10-year-old, I'm like, he'll be all right, you know. It's just, so find the gray beards. And we talk about, someone said vulnerability when we talk about manhood. It's a hard place to be vulnerable. I hate being vulnerable, but I know the necessity of it. I hate talking about what I don't know how to do, but I learned that when I've spoken to someone who does, they can impart their wisdom and I can learn how to do it. And I've learned that vulnerability, and thank you, Brother Ishmael, for sharing that that our vulnerability is really a strength and not a weakness. If I'm willing to open up and say, hey, I don't know how to do this. If I'm willing to say, yo, bro, Uncle Mike, can we have a session where, Brother Philip can teach us how to get a beard because I don't know how to have a strong beard. That's a level of vulnerability because, we don't ask for help. We will drive 12 miles out of the wrong direction because we ain't going to ask somebody for help. But we need to ask for help, right? And this is the reality. We need help. But we can't trust everybody. So in the question of who am I need to ask this question, who can I trust? Who can I trust to help me get to the next level? Who can I trust to bring me from point A to point B? Not point A to point G, because I got things in between I need to learn. Point A to point B to point C. Let's take it one step at a time. I say this all the time. Brothers always think they're good in bed, right? They're like, yeah, I got that. I hit that, I slam, or whatever, things like that. I say, you don't know if you're good in bed. You ain't never had you.
That's a wild concept.
Hey, you ain't never been there. She could listen. Look, there's a lot of folk getting Academy Awards, but some of them Academy Awards need to go to some of them sisters on the other side, right? Just let me just give him what he wants, because that way he get off me and get this thing over with, right? And some of them just like their mind is somewhere else. You stop, she's still going like, girl, what you thinking about? Right? Right? Are you present? And so, like, a brother came to me, goes, and he said this, he said, I'm home. So I thought that's what I needed. But my wife, she said it ain't satisfying. And I don't know what's up. I tried to hit it harder. I tried it from the back. I tried this, it ain't working. And I said, oh, okay, so let's talk about that. He was willing to open himself up and be vulnerable and say, bro, you've been married all these years to the same woman in a row, and you got 6 kids, you're doing something right. What am I doing wrong? Why? Because when he was 12, 13, 14 years old, no one sat down with him and said, this is how you please a woman. Or this is how you please a man. However you want, whatever you're going with, right? This is how to have sex, right? And some of us learned it on Pornhub. They ain't the place to learn that kind of stuff because, quite frankly, they're professionals. And you
I have no idea what you're talking about, Brother Don.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'll send you the transcript, sir.
Pornhub. Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Yeah, we're all right with being men, right? We can just talk about this kind of stuff, right? Pornhub is not the sex ed place. That's not where we go.
What is Pornhub?
Pornhub. Somebody educate the good president as to what Pornhub is, please. It's the third app.
I just asked. You're the youngest one here. I had magazines. You had the internet, man. Like,
don't ask Jane.
It's a porn site. That's it.
I plead the fifth.
I think we forgot about the hand raiser. I mean,
somebody said. Somebody help the brother out. Puma, tell him what Pornhub is. Come on.
Pornhub is the 20th century of the magazines, but it's video sex, man. They doing it video. You want to see it? Want to pull up real fast?
See, it's his third app. It's your fourth. Don't front. Okay, we ain't got time for that right now. I hope ain't nobody watching Pornhub during my session. Y'all, I'll tell you like my son, get the lotion later. Don't do it now. And I would recommend coconut oil because it's actually better for your skin.
I think Philip is pulling it up now. Philip Brown. He's
listen. When you say Pornhub, never use the word pull. We just need to keep it clean as close as possible.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, President. All right. So the point is that when we just find ourselves and we can answer that question, who am I? That becomes a part of self-discovery. And this is what troubles me so much about this generation coming up now, because I usually discover who I am and what I'm about by actually working through some stuff, right? Because the second question of the human heart is, why am I here? It's a question of purpose. Right? What am I? Everything has a purpose. Right? The King Solomon said, to everything there's a purpose, to everything under heaven. Everything has a purpose. And Dr. Miles Monroe said, if the purpose of a thing is misunderstood, abuse is inevitable. If the purpose of a thing is misunderstood, abuse is, or abnormal use, that's what abuse means, right? So everything has a purpose. So let's get to the nitty gritty. If everything has a purpose, what is the purpose of a penis? Now I'll give you a hint. There are 5 purposes to the penis.
Okay.
Come on, y'all, let's go. Hands.
Oh,
Wait, I may after the last conversation, everybody show your hands. I don't know what you're doing.
No protect. Hey, Puma has his hand up. Go ahead.
All right.
urination.
Urination. Okay.
Ejaculation.
Ejaculate.
Pleasure.
The purpose is, okay, pleasure. Anybody else?
Procreation, I guess.
Penetration.
Penetration.
Procreation.
Procreation.
Demonstration.
There goes that Pornhub again, right?
Demonstration is insane.
Some brothers.
You didn't have your hand up, Barry.
I know.
Some brothers shouldn't demonstrate. We'll just leave that alone. All right. All men are not created equal. Okay.
No, they're not.
But I'll say this: whatever you got, you better love it, because that's what you're gonna get. Don't believe them ads. Anybody else? Come on, yo. We got like a few minutes. I got. All right. So let me
demonstrate for willing people. I want to keep brothers out of trouble. Okay. You gotta caveat that appropriately. Okay.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said we got to caveat that appropriately. So demonstrate for like willing participants. Like don't just demonstrate. You can't just leave that open ended. Some brothers might misinterpret. You understand?
Yeah. Don't be wearing the trench coat and going outside and just flashing people. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. I'll put it out there. This is gray sweat season, so tie it down, brothers. Just don't get yourself into trouble.
What 2 pair today?
What did he say?
Mr. President, we're learning more about you than we ever should know. I just want you to know.
See, that's what happens when you're a widower. You're just out of control, man. Just out of control. But it's all good though. It's all good.
So the first, and there is an order to this. The first purpose is, which we talked about earlier, and Brother James and I had that whole discussion, is identification. We identify males because you have one, right? That's what doctors look for. When my daughter was born, she was my 5th child. I had 4 boys before her, and my wife said, "Well, what is it?" And we didn't do the gender stuff. And I said, "What is it?" The doctor lifted up her leg and said, "It's a girl." The reason why she said that, because she had no penis. If she had a penis, she would have been a male. If she didn't have one. So I always say this: penis identifies males. That's the first thing. The second one, someone said urination. It is for the elimination of liquid urine out of the body, liquid waste out of the body. The third one is actually an old tradition, which is it is for the purpose of establishing covenant. And that was actually, Mr. President, are you an attorney by any chance?
No, I'm not, sir.
Okay. Are there any attorneys amongst us tonight? So anybody know why, what would be the terms that a marriage could be annulled?
Because you haven't had sex. You haven't had sex.
That's right. Right. Yeah. So marriage is a covenant.
I couldn't get the word out.
It's a legal binding covenant. So you have the ceremony, you swear, you whatever, you sign all the paperwork, all that's fine. But if you've never had sex, it will eradicate the whole covenant because they say the covenant has not been established. And so historically, when a woman has sex the first time, and actually every time it happens, that's why AIDS in particular, HIV, transmits so quickly to women, is that there are always a level of openings that cause blood and within the vagina when she's having sex. And so they become susceptible to HIV in particular. If a male is HIV positive and it's in his semen and sperm, then she can get it because her body's opened up to receive it. So when the blood of a woman covers the crown of a man's penis, that establishes the covenant of marriage. That's the other reason, right? And by the way, what is the head of the penis called in medical terms? Anybody know? The corona, the crown. That's your royalty is there, right? That's your royalty right there.
I knew that.
Yeah, all right. Don't be showing everybody your crown, you know. That's a whole nother story. All right. And then the fourth one is because it is the vehicle for the delivery of sperm into the vagina. Right? That the penis goes in and it's delivering the sperm. That's the purpose of it, right? I know some brothers be hitting the back wall, but really that's not the purpose. Just got to get it in there. And then the sperm is designed, it'll swim on its own and find the egg. And then the last one is sexual pleasure. So the 5 purposes. Now think about this, because many of us started out at 13, 14, 15 years old, maybe even younger, some a little older, with the sexual pleasure piece, not understanding the other 4 and the order. And if the purpose of a thing is misunderstood, then we abuse it. And some of us are in the situations we are in today as fathers because we didn't understand that. We didn't understand how we should be using this part of our anatomy, our crown, in relationships. Some of us got women, we got, look around, some of us got a window smashed out of our car because we abused it, right? We got all kinds of stuff, people probably nasty notes on your Instagram because we abused it. We didn't understand that. And so if you don't understand that, it becomes a problem for us. So there's a purpose for everything. Imagine not knowing what the purpose of your life is. Why are you here? And I would submit to you today to understand that each of you are here for a purpose, and that when you fulfill your purpose, it will change the world of somebody else. That each of us, it's vital for us to achieve our purpose in life so that we can become who we're supposed to become. I'll use Brother Derek as an example because I've known him for several years, and he was an assistant principal in a high school, and he was itching to get out of there because he felt like it was holding him back from his purpose. But when he was able to get out of there, things began to blow up for real dads. So that we're all here tonight because at some point he and some other individuals got together and said, our purpose is to bring dads together. And as he said in his word, I just want to get guys together who are just doing the damn thing, right? That's just out there being fathers, doing the work, making it happen. That's what I want to do. His purpose becoming fulfilled, and how much we all have benefited because he stepped into that area of his purpose. And so I would submit to you, when you answer that question, and as you answer that question, think about the lives that you're influencing, because it's important, it's critical. I need you to fulfill your purpose. Everybody in this room needs everybody in this room to step up to that place. The good president is affecting hundreds of lives by his position because he stepped into his purpose of being head of the council, right? And so he's affecting people. And we should, as men, and stepping into our manhood, affect and infect everybody that we touch. And the infection should not be a negative thing, but should be a positive thing. So that's the second question. The third question of the human heart is, what can I do? This is a question of potential. And I would say this because people say, oh, you got so much potential. Well, part of my family comes from Central Africa, the nation of Congo. It's the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in Congo, we have tremendous waterfalls. In fact, 2/3 of the world's potential hydroelectric energy is in that one country. 2/3 of the world's potential hydroelectric energy is in that one country. And there's not a city in Congo where the power stays on all day long. Wow. Blackouts throughout the day. Wow. Because the potential has not been realized. Our prisons are filled with people who have tremendous potential. Scientists, engineers, artists, musicians, painters, carpenters, all in our prisons because their potential has been squashed. So it's critical that you answer this question, what can I do? Because if you don't fulfill your potential, we all suffer as a result of it. It is important that you answer that question. And that comes from you doing stuff. You get to do something. That's why work is so important for us, particularly when we're young. Young brothers, get them out there working so they can figure out, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, I like this, I don't like this. Oh, I can do this. I didn't know I could do this, right? When I was a little kid, they were saying, you just talk too much, you talk too much, you talk too much. This is my money maker. I make money running my mouth. I am a lecturer, I am a speaker, I'm an instructor, I'm a professor, I'm a manager, I'm a trainer. Almost all day, all I do is talk. But in the third grade, in the second grade, in the fourth grade, they kept, no, not the fourth grade, I had a black male teacher, he loved me talking. But everybody else was like, you talk too much, you talk too much. Donald is a good student, but he just talks so much. Ain't nobody told Oprah she talked too much. You see what it did for her, right? Right? So what can you do? What can you do? And then the fourth question.
Donald, before you go to the fourth question, we don't have much more time. So maybe some of the brothers have some comments or some questions.
I'll pick up on that next week.
Yeah.
The first three, go for it.
Yeah. So anyone have any comments or questions about what we've heard so far? Brother Donald dropped a lot of gems.
I just want to say that I really enjoyed Brother Donald and everything that he said, and all the brothers that gave their comments. We're helpers of one another, and we glean off of each other. And when we listen, if we take the time to listen, we can learn so much. So thank you, Brother Donald.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm actually going to challenge you to take those three questions and ponder them so we can talk about them next week.
Great.
And I just want to say also that I was going to ask you where you were from, because you don't hear it until you say certain words. That accent. The accent.
You'll pick up on my accent when I say certain words, and that's
certain
because
words.
I'm from the South Bronx. People say, why do you speak Spanish? I say, because in my country, everybody speaks Spanish. They say, what country are you from? I say, the Bronx.
So Donald, can you give us those three questions? Ishmael, make sure we have it. So we have a group, we could put it into our WhatsApp group.
Okay. So, I can post them there. I'm in the WhatsApp group. So.
Okay, but if you could just say it one more time, the three questions.
Yep. The first question is, who am I? It's a question of identity. The second question is, where am I? What can I do? No, why am I here? I'm sorry. Why am I here? Why am I here? Which is a question of potential, of purpose. The third question is, what can I do? Which is a question of potential. I'll give you the next two. We'll expound on them next week. The fourth question is, where am I from? Question of origins. And it's not geographic. I'll give you a hint on that one. And the last is, where am I going? Which is a question of destiny.
So, but Donald, I have something that a comment I want to make. The first question was, who am I, right? Is that?
Who am I?
Who am I? And we talked a lot about people who defined who we were by what they said to us. And I just want to add something to that. Quite often we're defined by what people do not say to us.
This is true.
You know, and that's another layer. Then also we're defined quite often by what people do to us. It defines how they treat us. I mean, especially as Black men, we pick up our definition by how we've been treated. They might not never said anything to us, but because of how they treated us, it gave us our definition of who we were, and we have to redefine ourselves. You know, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's a powerful one. One of the big concerns, and Brother Derek and I have talked about this, is this idea of the feminization of males. And feminization has nothing to do with sexuality or the way men act, it's the way men think. Because if you put a boy in an environment that's filled with women, which I'll talk about our school systems at some point, but what is praised is when little boys act like little girls. So in their minds, they start thinking, I have to think this way and do this, and I'll get praised for it. And so then they start thinking and acting, not in a traditional way that a male would, but in a way that a female would. And that becomes very problematic in terms of us achieving manhood. So men think very differently than women.
I just want to say something. Oh, I just want to, may I say one thing?
Yep.
I think also sometimes we define ourselves by the questions that people ask us. I think a little bit earlier, you said something about, are you crazy? You're not necessarily calling someone crazy, but it kind of makes them think that. So
Right.
even in the questions that we ask, we sometimes define in those questions. And last week, we kind of got on that a little bit about the difference between our cultures. And if you ask a little 5-year-old boy, how many girlfriends do you have? Right. You're defining who he is by asking that question.
That's exactly right.
Or if your daughter is sitting there listening to that, even by her not even answering that, she's now assuming because you're asking him that that's what he's supposed to do. So that's why her husband does it. So I think those questions also define who we are and culturally who we become.
I believe Brother Donald, was it crazy or stupid? I think it was stupid, wasn't it?
Stupid. It was stupid, but crazy works just as well.
Okay.
Or what's wrong with you?
Right.
What's wrong with you? You ask
means something's wrong with you.
That means something's wrong with you.
Right.
And I think those subtle things are so more powerful than we realize. And I think
it plants seeds. It plants seeds in your mind.
And I think that's why it's so important that we have these conversations so we could change the narratives in our communities. You know, we've done things like for generations that was actually working against us. And that's why it's great that, you know, Donald, you could just bring this conversation, you know, to the forefront with us, which is really great.
I'd like to do this one exercise before we go, because it's going to help us when we start talking about the 5 questions, and each of you get to meditate and ponder and think about these questions concerning yourself. So when we come back together next week, we can have a real rich conversation about the greatness that's going to be logging in next week. But I'd like each of you to give me one word to define yourself. One word to define yourself. And I'm going to ask us to stay away from the physical characteristics like tall and good looking, great, you know, but come up with something else. So who would like to start?
I'll go first. I think I'm thoughtful.
Thoughtful. Okay.
I'm compassionate.
Okay.
I'm reflective.
Okay.
Observant.
Okay.
Blessed.
Okay.
Humble. I'm kind.
Kind and humble. Who's it kind?
I did.
Okay.
Leader.
Okay. Paul, did you go?
You muted.
You muted, Paul.
I thought about it, and the word I'm gonna choose is inevitable.
Inevitable. Okay. Brother Lawrence, Brother Leon, Brother Robert, can you jump in here?
Yeah, still thinking.
Still thinking?
Hey, Donald, I thought about it. I thought about it. I'm funny.
You're funny. Okay.
Looking.
So I'm going to ask for this. I'm going to ask for this because this is
Puma set herself up for that one, boy.
It's easy for us to joke on each other, but how easy is it for us to empower one another? Right? And one word I did not hear, and it's a word I always use to describe myself because it was something I was told, and I have to say it so I can start hearing it and believing it, is that I'm powerful. And each one of you get to say, I'm powerful. Each one of you get to say, I'm a leader. Each one of you, you see where we're going with these words, right? Right?
There's power in leadership.
There is power in leadership. That's right.
I know that for sure.
But each of you are leaders.
Mm.
Each of you are creators. Each of you are dynamic. Each of you are fantastic, awesome, beautiful, sexy, strong. But we didn't hear those terms. And why is the question you want to ask yourself? I don't want to feel like I'm conceited, or I'm self-centered, or I don't believe it. Say it anyway, right? Say it until you believe it, because if you don't say it, nobody else will. Unless you come and talk to me, then I'm gonna tell you you're powerful, you're strong. And I can tell a man he's sexy and not be worried about my sexuality. Because it don't bother me. You saying that if you know my son, he's very sexy. I'm like, I need you to put a shirt on when you walk with me because everybody looking at you and they not looking at me. We can't have that, right? But that's just real. So as we go through this week and think about those 5 questions, I also want to give you the assignment of come up with 10 descriptions of yourself that bother you when you say it. Some of you would have trouble saying I'm sexy. Some of you have trouble saying I'm powerful. Some of you have trouble saying I'm a leader. Some of you would have trouble saying I'm strong. Say it. And then we can talk about that next week.
So
I appreciate each of you. Thank
Donald,
you so much.
Before you go, James want to say something. He wants to share something with the group, whoever can hang in there. But Paul, say what you have to say. And Donald, if possible, if you could start next week right where you ended, right with the last 5 minutes.
Exactly right.
Would be
That's
really
right.
great. Yeah, because a lot of brothers had to log off. So Paul, if you could say what you question or whatever's comment you have to have, and then James is here this evening with us, so he has something. I don't know what it is, so I'll put that disclaimer out there. But all right, go ahead, Paul.
No, I was gonna say I thought what was really interesting when you asked us to use the words to describe, I started processing, and one of the things I started processing is, as Black men, we're often told what we can't be, while everyone else can be essentially what they want to be. And thinking of that, I thought as I was processing that, like, I thought of the word powerful, and I thought a lot of things you said, but it was almost as if
sir? Hold on
it was almost as if I was programmed, like I've been programmed not to think in that way.
I'm well aware of that. That's exactly why I did what I did.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
All right, so I'm gonna give James the full screen because he's gonna do his thing. All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
But hey everyone, my name is James Larson. I'm a junior at Hunter College. I'm a part of the BMI program there. I'm gonna be a team leader soon again. But I'm a rapper and a poet. I wanted to share a verse that I wrote. Yeah, it deals with masculinity. It's titled Sacrifices. It's after the Dreamville song. If you're familiar with it, if you're familiar with J. Cole. It's about my brother. I make sacrifices, bloody sacrifices, cutthroat, rabbit's toe, I suppose. I guess that's just life is, it is. I'm not privileged. I make more sacrifices than the next man. My chest pokes as I stand, looking over my city corners. As crackers weigh down my shoulders, like the chip on mine. I am bolder, and they chip my mind. As I get older, they belittle me to just a folder, but I'm just trying to stay warm when the streets get colder. And I'm anemic. The reason I pack heat is so I could feel it. Through my felines, I run the streets, I cry. Never, unless I'm talking to my tia about Crotona or to Antonia, my abuelita, La Madre Mia working day and night to feed us. It's my brother's fetus. It's our father decided to leave us like we don't need love, like we don't need him, like it's not the only thing that we think of, like pain is beneath us. Like it's not on our minds anytime that we link up with our niggas. Looking outside trying to find a father figure. Instead, we found silhouettes in the street lights, street fights on cigarette-bedded roads, our homes scattered like glass and broken bones from a chiropractor. Money came first and little came after. I make sacrifices, bloody sacrifices. So that was it. I just wanted to share that, just to let y'all know that I'm a rapper. But yeah, no, that's all I wanted to do.
I love it. 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 I love it.
Y'all could also y'all could follow me at my rap name, my stage name is BX_Galileo or BX Galileo. Y'all can follow me on Instagram. It's BX_Galileo, GALILEO.
That was good. I like that. And the best part about it is we didn't even need Uncle Mike tonight. You could have just stayed there all by yourself.
Thank you.
Let me just say you stick with that. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. You can take that and run.
Yeah.
Run with it. Keep writing. Do what you do. Shoot for the moon, man.
Thank you.
Good to have you, James. Good to see you. Good to meet you.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely coming to more meetings.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.
man.
Thank you, James.
No problem. No problem.
And
I got
this is
it.
the way we get them to the meeting. You have to invite them over, you know, and then put them up, you know. We tell them to come, they don't come. So invite them to your house and then have them speak, you know. Then they don't want to shut up. But anyway.
Wow, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's crazy.
You gotta feed them. If you feed them, they'll never leave. I'll just tell you that right now.
That's what happened. My wife fed him, and he's like, I'm saying. So I'm like,
That's it. That's it.
He's right there, Uncle
right,
Mike.
brother.
He's still there. All right.
Donald, thank you so much. It was a real great pleasure to have you on. We look forward to
Thank
next
you
week.
for being here, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll see you all
See you
next
next
week.
week, man. For sure,
All right,
Donald.
next
See you
week.
next week.
Good night.
All right,
Thank
everybody.
you, guys.
Bye,
All right,
James.
James.
All right, Uncle Mike.
Hey.
Mike.